Hello, hi, it is I, Serendipity Wyrd, and I know it's been forever since I made a video. We're getting there, okay? One little step in front of the other, right? I've been doing so much work behind the scenes that's really, I haven't really shared things on any of my social media platforms, haven't really done any Instagram posts. This year has been kind of wild so far. There was, illness stuff. There was out of town stuff. It's just been kind of busy, but working on it, y'all. I'm working on it. I have several ideas and whole series, and I'm doing the work that I need to create my physical environment, to create my mental state and all of this stuff so that I can create and, do all the things I'm trying to do. One of the things that I'm not just trying to do, I am actively doing, and I'm super excited about, is I signed up for the Curvy Yoga Certification. I am a certified yoga instructor. I did my 200-hour teacher training back in 2019, and I had just started teaching when everything kind of started to be pandemic-y and weird, and my kind of home yoga base where I worked on my certification presented an opportunity for me to teach online for a while, and then when the pandemic, when things were kind of shut down and everything, but then they were opening back up to in-person instruction, and I was just absolutely not ready in any way, shape, or form to be around people, right? This was May-ish or April-ish of 2020, and I was like, ooh, that's just not a choice that I can make for myself. And they were super loving and compassionate, and were like, we totally understand. So I kept up with my practice for a while on my own. I used YouTube videos and stuff like that, and my own personal drive to practice. And then at some point, probably by the end, my chair keeps dropping, y'all. It's just by inch. I don't know if that's visible on the video, but it's cracking me up. But I'm not going to stop recording because we're just, we just do this. Anyway, by kind of October or September, something late 2020, my practice just really sort of fell apart, and I started, focusing my attention elsewhere. And yoga, breath work was still a part of my practice, but active, physical asana practice, poses, and all that kind of stuff just really kind of disappeared. And as I've been developing, this platform slowly, right? And as I've been creating content on my Instagram, and kind of as I've been figuring out what it is that I'm trying to do here in this world, and I created the Wyrd Sanctuary, and we do the Wyrd Circle and all of this stuff, it's really brought me back to the fact that yoga is really essential to my life, my spiritual practice, especially my way of being. I am much more myself, and much more able to be consistently sort of have some emotional consistency when I'm actively practicing yoga. So, for a while, I was like, I want to get back into it. Vaccines came around. I got vaccinated, and I was like, cool, maybe I can go back to my yoga practice in the studio, because home-wise, I've tried many times to kind of create space in the home for yoga and for recording videos. If you look back on my channel, there's some stuff at our old house outside. But it's always sort of been at home, a lot of effort to be able to to practice. It feels like it's a lot of effort. And I don't know, maybe you have something in your life where you're like, I really want to do this thing. You know, maybe it's a craft project, maybe it's like sewing, maybe it's like painting, maybe it's even cooking meals or something. But there's like this thing you want to do, but it just feels like the mountain of effort and energy that you have to put out to set the stage to do the thing is just too much to overcome. And that's kind of how I felt out of practice at yoga at home. I haven't been able to set up a space that's just for yoga because I have a lot of interests, believe it or not, and only so much physical environment. And so outside has always been sort of the space that I'm like, well, I have to go outside. Challenges there are I live in freaking Florida, y'all, and it gets really, really hot. A few years back, and it may have been 2020. Yeah, before my practice kind of fell away from me, I was going outside at like 6 a.m. in the morning because that's the only time that I could reliably, know that I wasn't going to burn in order to practice yoga. But anyway, that's all kind of irrelevant. This is probably the first of many yoga related discussion videos I think I'm going to do. But point being, more recently, maybe last October, I don't know, as this like transition from 2021 to 2022 was happening, it became really apparent to me I needed to get back in my practice. And I was like, okay, I feel safe enough, right, to go out into the world, to breathe with other humans, and to practice yoga around people. And so I did return to my shala, the Shiva Yoga Shala, in January. But like I said, this year so far has been kind of wonky. So I thought I was going to go back and it was going to be like when I returned to my practice in 2018, 2019. Yes. Before I started teacher training, and it was every day. Like if you go back on my Instagram and scroll back, you'll see where 2019 had me in this place of it was an everyday practice for me. Every single day I got on my mat somehow, some way, even if it was just to do 3 sun salutations, I got on my mat and I did something for like 140 days until I forgot one day. 'Cause, neurodivergent. I don't know. But even with that practice, in some ways, like that sounds like it would be a very high priority in my life. But it really wasn't. Like, a lot of the days, it certainly wasn't like the first thing I did every day to make sure that I did it. Okay, that's what I mean by it. It felt like I really wasn't quite prioritizing it. I was making sure it happened, but it wasn't like the very first thing every day. And in my personal practice, that's something I've been looking at for a few years is like, where is the best part of a day for me? And that sort of thing. And I really have realized for me, I sometimes like to create like way into the night, and I will totally stay up all night writing something, drawing something, whatever. But if there is a place of consistency for me, which this chaotic being does not necessarily vibe with consistency all the time, but that place of consistency is like first thing in the day. So anyway, I thought that this year, going back to yoga, it was immediately, I was going to be like, I'm going to yoga every freaking day, and that's my priority. But, you change over some years, and so I did go, like, the first 2 days, but I realized, like, it was a different struggle, right? Like, in the household, finding space for my mat can be a challenge, unless I go outside. The struggle became physically going to the studio because it's like 45 minutes for me. So I realized like this is a 3-hour endeavor that I'm committing to. And that was a struggle because there's a lot of other things I'm working on. So then I got sick and like not much was happening at all, and that was pretty much all of February. And so I finally got back in the studio last week. And don't even really know where all this is going, except that I just want to ramble about it. And maybe somebody else will be interested in this ramble. But what I'm really excited about is that I signed up for a certification. Yes, I'm already certified to teach. That's cool. I know that teaching right now is not something, like, I have to get my own personal practice back in line, right? Before I can really be doing the teaching thing. And I think I've avoided yoga in general. Even when I was in teacher training, it was kind of a secondary priority. Like, there's always been this weird priority and aversion with my yoga practice. And some of that centers around some feelings about being a white girl doing yoga and cultural appropriation, and is it okay for me to even do this, and having to really work through some questions around that. And I can't argue with what it brings to my life, and I can't argue with the benefits that I've received from this practice. And so part of me, even though I know it's something that I can be really great at, and it can be really beneficial to the people that I share, you know, my classes with or what have you, it's been something that I think I've been really afraid to step into, and I've been really afraid of succeeding at, right? Fear of success. That's a thing, and I'm gonna name it now, and I'm naming it, and that's a thing. So anyway, last week I went back to a class with one of my favorite teachers and friends, and it was really great to see her, and it was a really great class. And I took another really great class on Friday, but from home, and I made space, and I went, it's not that hard to move the couch out of the way, and I can do the yoga, and that's great. And then this weekend I got an email about the Curvy Yoga Certification opening up again, because it only really opens like once a year. And this is something I've been looking at for some years, but hesitant to invest in myself, right? Like, that's a thing that we also face, is a hesitancy to, I don't know, maybe you don't. Maybe you're totally like, I know I'm worth stuff and I'm going to invest in me. But that's really, really, really been a struggle for me. Really been a struggle. And so I figured out a way to like make it happen. I talked to my partners and I was like, I think I really need to do this. And it felt very much like one of those like signs from the universe kind of thing. Because part of my interest in teaching yoga is teaching it from the perspective that I have of being a person in a bigger body that does not necessarily conform to the movements and cues and such that your typical yoga environment is going to offer. Because often what I've seen is like, I've had to learn to make my own adjustments, and here, like when somebody says, you know, gives a direction, that I have had to learn to give myself permission to make changes to that for me, or to explore, you know, how can I do this? Because y'all, I'm fat. Like, that's just a truth of this matter. And I have been since I was a kid. And weight loss, you know, I went through this whole thing with like, oh, you know, I've got to do this. And I don't know if I've talked about that at all before in terms of why self-love is a focus for me. But somewhere in like, I want to say it was probably 2009-ish. This idea that it wouldn't matter if I lost weight because I would still probably loathe myself if I don't learn to love myself first came into my head. And I was like, mind blown. Like, it was a total epiphany moment. I can remember the place and the, you know, I'm walking from a bedroom to a bathroom like I have this is what was happening at the time when this thought came in. And in that moment, like, I decided that I cannot focus on weight loss or something until I come to a point where I know that I love myself and I'm happy with where I am. I can make choices for my health or whatever, but I cannot allow myself to really think about things from like a dieting perspective or a, my goal is weight loss. And yoga came in and out of my life in between these times between 2009 and now, and my activity levels and all of that shifted and changed here and there, and there's a whole situations in 2018 that led to the point where I was at the beginning of 2019 when I was like, I have to do yoga if I'm going to survive. And maybe I'll make a video about that whole thing, but that's way too much emotion for right now. But so I really dove into the practice at that point, like I said. And somewhere along the line, I came across, like, I took like one class from somebody that was a Curvy Yoga class, and there was all of this instruction around like utilizing the blocks in different ways that I'd ever been taught. I don't even know if anybody had even ever used blocks in a class that I'd been up to that point. Because I think that this was 2016, I think, when I took this one single class. And eventually, like while I was in teacher training or shortly after, I picked up the book Curvy Yoga. It's right here. Let me awkwardly take it out. There we go. I picked up the book, read some or most or all of it. I don't even remember because that was a few years ago now. And I get distracted while reading books sometimes. And I start other books and it's a whole thing. Anyway, another video on that subject maybe. But my point is that this is something that I've been really curious about for a long time. But every time I've kind of looked in on like, oh, do they offer a certificate? How can I learn to teach this specifically? It's like either not been available or it felt like it was out of my price range, that sort of thing. So this weekend, I made a choice. I made a choice for me that I think will help at least maybe some of you at some point, which was to invest in this certification and use that decision to really push myself back into my practice, to develop language that I want to be able to use that's more inclusive, to reignite my passion for both yoga and teaching, which I never have really lost. It's just not been something I really felt that I could prioritize because it involves me taking up space. It involves me, like, literally I have to have a place to put the mat, right? Like the mat can't just stay rolled up, and I have to be able to like fling my arms around. Not really, not so much flinging, but I have to have space to move. And it involves me having to come face to face with like the fact that I have gained more weight and less muscle since I stopped my yoga practice. So my body is different than it was even a few years ago. And basically I just have to face my relationship to my body, and I have to face my body and go, hey, I'm going to stop ignoring that you exist here and that you're just like this little meat suit I'm in. And I'm going to work in conjunction with you, which has always been really important to me. Embodied aspects to work. And maybe this is, because sun sign Virgo. I don't know. Maybe it's the earth in my chart coming through. But this physicality and this, I love dance and I love movement and stuff. But I think somewhere in me, there's like that little voice that I learned as a kid, like you're fat and therefore you're not allowed to do these things because it's not going to look as pretty as somebody with less flesh on their bones. And so you should just not even do it. And I would like to say to that voice that that's BS and I'm not going to listen to you anymore. Because I want to live a life where I am enjoying the things that I am doing and that I seek my passions, right? Like, and that I seek my desires and that I don't just go, oh, I want to do this thing. Oh, I'm not allowed. I want to give myself permission to explore interests. And with that, permission also to drop the interest if I'm like, oh, this really isn't as much me as I thought it might be. But anyway, so I'm super excited about getting into this. I'm really excited about finding some consistency for myself while also giving my neurodivergence room to exist. I know that some days are going to be like today where, you know, I've spent 3 or 4 hours really focusing on stuff, doing a lot of journaling, watching the videos for the course, this and that. And I know that some days I'm not going to touch it much, except to go to my mat and even just sit there or do a meditation. I'm giving myself more freedom in my practice, that it doesn't have to look any one specific way. Which, particularly for a brain like mine, I think is really helpful. A lot of my struggles historically, I think, have been based around trying to compare, like trying to meet some expectation that I think is an expectation because of outside influence somehow, some way. And I'm kind of done with that. Like, I've been spending some years now kind of deconstructing, and there's something about this year that is like, okay, you've been hiding long enough, you gotta get out there. Hence, rambling videos. You're welcome. So, anyway, I expect to maybe make some more yoga related content and to stop like hiding the fact that yoga is important to me, because I've realized that that's like a thing that I've done and I don't know why, but that's okay. Yeah, and to just announce that I'm super excited that I'm investing in myself, that I'm seeking out more knowledge, and I'm actually working with that knowledge. I am kind of forever like a knowledge seeker. Like I said, I tend to read a lot, or at least not always books. Like I read a lot of like web-based content, but I really love books. Books are so much easier to read. Like I'm just used to that, right? Like as a kid, I devoured books. But yeah. But I've always kind of been a little bit detached from what I've been learning out of really, I think, fear that I could be good at things, which I can totally link to like experiences in school and stuff like that, and you know, being called teacher's pet and just blah, just stupid crap, when really I was, you know, it's not like I don't remember like wanting, I mean it was nice to have the approval of authority figures or something, but really I just wanted to like consume knowledge and gain like insights and learn things, and then like take that knowledge and apply it to other things. And somehow I let that part of me kind of dissolve in order to try to stay smaller, to try to not take up that space, to try to not, you know, make other people uncomfortable. But we're done with that now, right? Like we're here, we're going to make some people uncomfortable, and we're going to be weird. And we're gonna love our weird. That's what we're gonna do. So yeah, I don't know. That's what I got for you today. There'll be another video sometime. I don't know when. I'm traveling 2 times this month. I'm going to 2 different events, and vending and doing readings and all that kind of fun jazz, which you don't have to find me at an event to get a reading. You can go to wyrdsanctuary.org. Look on the page that's all about me, and you'll see what kind of services I offer. You can book a session. You can also join the Wyrd Circle and meet up with me once a month or more for spiritual practices. We're working on kind of a rotating thing so that there's multiple people offering those services every single Sunday. Yeah, but you know, if you're in the Florida sort of area, I will be at the Trees of Avalon gathering April 7th through 10th, and I will be at Florida Pagan Gathering April 20th through 24th. I think those are the dates. I don't know. If you Google the events, I'm sure you'll get the correct dates. Anyway, so until the next video, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later, I'm sending you lots of love. Mwah. I hope you have wonderful times exploring your spirituality. And if yoga is a thing in your life as well, I want to hear about it. So please tell me down in the comments and let's chat. You know, have you had positive experiences with yoga? Did you feel supported with the body structure that you have? Was it a challenge? Like, I want to hear about it because I want to do what I can to support you if that's an interest that you would like to explore. And I'm just kind of curious. So there you go. All right. For real this time. Lots of love. Mwah. Bye.